Vanessa Brooks arrived at the gate for her flight from Asheville to Portland, her 3-year-old daughter, Alina, asleep in her arms. She had a first-class ticket, 2D, which she had paid for herself. As she approached the priority boarding line, a flight attendant named Nancy Bell stopped her. Nancy's polite smile didn't reach for eyes, and she seemed to look past Vanessa to the child in her arms. She told Vanessa the line was for priority boarding, and when Vanessa confirmed her first class seat, Nancy's smile vanished. She walked away to speak into her radio. Vanessa waited patiently, moving aside so others could pass. Nancy returned with a gate agent and instructed Vanessa to step out of the line, claiming there was a boarding issue and that she had alerted airport security. Vanessa, tired but calm, didn't argue. She simply adjusted her daughter and moved to the side, feeling a familiar cold weariness. Passengers watched quietly, but no one said anything. A different gate agent, Rachel Moore, soon returned to the desk, saw Vanessa, and checked the flight manifest. She confirmed Vanessa's ticket was valid and told her she was good to board. As Vanessa walked down the jet bridge, she passed Nancy, who deliberately looked away. Inside the quiet, cold cabin, Vanessa settled into her seat, 2D, with Alina in her lap. The woman in the seat across the aisle, Judith Lang, gave her a brief, judgmental glance. The watchful silence from the crew and other passengers was palpable, but Vanessa was used to it. She had been through similar moments before, at hotels and department stores, in staff meetings, and she knew how to stay still, to not give them the reaction they expected. The plane remained at the gate, and the captain, Mark Ellison, came out to investigate the delay. Nancy told him about a seating concern, claiming Vanessa had been uncooperative and bypassed the gate. Captain Ellison, without a word, walked down the aisle to Vanessa's seat, confirmed her valid ticket, and returned to the cockpit. The silence in the cabin grew heavier, filled with the unspoken weight of what had just transpired. Then, a low voice from a few rows back broke the silence. A man named Roland Hatcher declared, "She didn't do anything wrong. I saw the whole thing." Judith Lang's voice followed, confirming Vanessa had been polite and treated unfairly. Other passengers began to speak up in her defense. The quiet had been broken. The gate agent, Rachel, returned to the plane and quietly confronted Nancy, revealing that she had confirmed Vanessa's ticket before the security call was made. Rachel bluntly stated, "You escalated it. She never even spoke until you made her." In the cockpit, Captain Ellison sat in silence. He wasn't dealing with a technical issue, but something more profound. He reached for the cabin phone and made a call. Meanwhile, Vanessa received a text from her husband, Eli, who had just gotten a call about the delay. Before she could explain, Nancy announced to the cockpit that the cabin was secure and ready for pushback. But Captain Ellison didn't answer. Instead, he stepped out of the cockpit again, his steps slow and deliberate. He announced to the entire plane that they would not be departing until a personal matter was resolved. Vanessa nodded at him, a quiet understanding passing between them. The cabin buzzed with quiet murmurs, but she felt a sense of relief. For once, the judgment wasn't just in her head, it was being addressed. Nancy stood frozen, her tight, brittle expression unable to hide the fact that she was no longer in control. Captain Ellison returned to the galley and, in a low but firm voice, confronted Nancy. He stated that she didn't feel unsafe, but challenged, and had delayed the entire flight with a bias wrapped in procedure. He then apologized to Vanessa over the intercom, loud enough for the front rows to hear. He said she had been treated unfairly and that it would be addressed. Vanessa, in turn, told him she didn't need special treatment, just fair treatment. The captain announced they were requesting a replacement lead flight attendant, and Nancy stood stiffly while the rest of the crew and passengers watched. Vanessa felt a release of tension, but not total relief. She had been prepared to carry the weight of the incident alone, as she always did, but this time, others had stepped in. Across the aisle, Judith felt a mix of shame and guilt for not speaking up sooner. Roland, from row 3A, simply watched, knowing the captain's actions were more powerful than any essay he could write. The replacement crew arrived. The new lead, Deidre Lane, a black woman in her late 40s, spoke to Vanessa with a quiet understanding, promising to take care of her. She added, "You handled it the right way." Vanessa's reply was simple but powerful. "I shouldn't have had to handle it at all." Nancy, with her confidence gone, gathered her belongings without looking at anyone and exited the plane. Captain Ellison announced the new crew change, and the plane's door finally closed with a soft thud. The plane took off, leaving the city lights behind. Vanessa finally allowed herself to relax, holding her sleeping daughter close. She thought about all the other times she had to endure similar situations and realized this time was different. The silence hadn't been her burden alone. Others had shared it and then broken it. Judith, feeling a deep sense of shame for her initial inaction, wrote a small, folded note to Vanessa. It said, "I didn't speak soon enough, but I was watching, and I see you. You deserved better from all of us." She nervously handed it to Vanessa, who held it without reading it right away, acknowledging the gesture with a quiet "thank you." Roland, watching from his seat, closed his notebook, understanding the moment was bigger than anything he could write. Deidre, the new flight attendant, returned to Vanessa's row, offering her water and a blanket. She shared her own experience, saying, "I've been in your seat before. I wanted to say I saw you before the captain spoke." Vanessa appreciated the sentiment, but reiterated, "I shouldn't have had to." As the plane began its descent into Portland, Alina stirred awake. Vanessa held her up to the window to see the city lights, which her daughter mistook for stars. For the first time all day, Vanessa felt a moment of peace. Landing at the gate, the cabin lights came on and passengers began to stand up. Judith passed by Vanessa's seat and said, "You reminded all of us who we are when we forget." Roland gave her a respectful nod. Deidre also stopped, telling Vanessa, "You changed the cabin today." Vanessa replied, "Then I hope the cabin remembers." When the aisle cleared, Vanessa stood, her daughter on her hip. She retrieved the note from Judith and, instead of taking it with her, placed it on the empty seat, leaving it behind as a reminder. She walked off the plane, and at the end of the jet bridge, Captain Elliston was waiting. He thanked her for holding her ground and told her it was the only direction they could go. Stepping into the busy terminal, Vanessa was no longer in a hurry. She hadn't proven anything by staying calm or leaving quickly. She had already done the impossible. She had stayed, and her presence had shifted the world around her. She looked at a text from her husband asking if she landed okay, and she replied, "Yes, she slept. I stayed seated." And with that, she walked out into the rain, whole and finally free from the seat she never should have had to defend.